As if 2020 hasn't been a freaky enough year already, in Louisiana, there's a problem going on where the mosquitoes are actually killing cattle and horses. I did not know this was even possible, but apparently this is a real thing. I verified it with real news media. I'm going to link this stuff down in the comment section so you can look at it too. But we're going to discuss some of this odd stuff right now. Here's a picture from a major newspaper, and you can look this up yourself. I'll put the links down in the description. You can't make this stuff up, and this was something I never had heard of before, but apparently it's not just this year. As an amazing of a year this has already been for things, but apparently this goes on down in the Gulf every few years after every major hurricane. Is you will have problems in some areas with mass swarms of mosquitoes, and the poor cow or horse, it simply can't get away. You know, if it's pinned up, all it can basically do is walk back and forth, and while they're slowly being drained by a swarm of mosquitoes. Some of them it can actually kill. A lot of them it's simply going to sicken, because these poor animals will almost become anemic. I guess it's a little more interesting to me because I've been in that area. I have camped out along the Gulf. That was really the first trip I did in the minivan, and I did a video a couple of weeks ago basically saying the first place I ever really camped, wild camp, beach camp, you know, got destroyed by the last hurricane a week or so back, and now we have this other hurricane coming into the area. But apparently this happens in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. After every major hurricane, there can be issues with this. And I thought you might find it interesting because I know for me it's just one of those things I had never heard of before. And it almost seems unbelievable, and then you look it up from a real news source, and it is unfortunately a real thing. Now I can tell you in Mississippi on the Gulf, we had problems with mosquitoes. I ended up being eaten up by sand fleas or no-see-ums or whatever the heck is in that area. But we probably ended up with more mosquitoes in the van and trying to get them out of the van those couple of nights there than any place we have ever been van camping in the United States. Whether we hit it at the wrong time of year, I don't know what it was, but after we got out of that state and started down the Gulf Coast in Texas, we didn't have those problems in Texas. And I know there's things out there like killer bees. I just don't think the odds of me running into that are very high. But when they're having problems like with these mosquitoes, they basically have flown in planes and dropped things over 3 counties trying to solve pesticides, I guess, over these 3 counties, trying to remedy this problem of the livestock being killed by the mosquitoes. Maybe you don't find this interesting at all, but I think this is one of the things that you might need to know if you're out and about, because if a swarm of mosquitoes could do this to an animal that size, it's almost beyond the realm of belief thinking about it. And you thought you just had to get bitten by the one Zika mosquito or whatever it was a few years ago to cause problems. I didn't know you could have really swarms of mosquitoes, but apparently that is a real thing, is a real option. And it hits home a little more for me because I've been to that area. And I think you'll find this out as you get on the road and travel to different places and you know, in the future, and go places that you haven't been before. And I know I was like this before I got to travel very much when I was growing up and when I was a young man and hadn't been away a lot. when you hear and see stories in the news, and it's someplace far away, it just really doesn't mean a lot to you, or as much to you as when it's somewhere that you have been to. I can remember back in the early 90s, horrible things that happened. Somebody went up on the Empire State Building, came out, and basically murdered everybody that was there. And it was just one of those forgotten about heart stories that came and went. Kind of mattered to me because I had my first trip to New York, and I had been up on the Empire State Building at night with some buddies. I can't remember now, maybe a couple of months before this horrible thing happened. So things hit home a little bit more when they happen in an area that you have been to. At least that's the way it works for me. I'd kind of like to know if that's the way it works for you guys and gals also. That's my whole reason for being on the road to begin with, is to explore, is to adventure. That's what does it for me. That's not what does it for everyone, and I understand that. And that's why occasionally you'll see a video of me in a cemetery, or me in an abandoned building, or some different things, because that's what does it for me. I do like getting away, and I do like hiking and nature trails and those things, but just sitting in a campground day after day, that doesn't do it for me. I've got to be out exploring something, learning about something, whatever it was in the area that I'm in. So I guess that brings us to our real question, which is this. What is the strangest thing that you have encountered while traveling? The weirdest thing in the United States, and we have some viewers from outside the United States. I'd be interested to know what is really odd that can happen with wildlife, nature, where you are, whether it's some part of Europe or whether it's Australia, New Zealand. Because I've reached the age, I thought I was a pretty smart fellow and knew a lot of things, but man, there just seems to always be something new that I'm finding out about for the times that I'm on the road. If you want me to try to bring you more interesting things from time to time, let me know that. If you really don't want me to do videos on oddball stuff I run across, let me know that too. It's kind of a vote. Either you like it or you don't. But I don't know unless you tell me. So let me know down in the comments, the little thumbs up and thumbs down. That's really not a good voting thing necessarily. So let me know in the comments, you regulars, if these oddball things I bring you from time to time is something you really want to see, or if you just want me to talk about vans and travel places. Because again, you're taking your time to watch this. Your opinion does matter. You know, I want you to kind of think of this as being your channel too. Short and sweet. We'll get back on topic for future videos. We'll talk soon.